I, 24F, have always lived in the shadow of my sister Fiona, 22F, who is my mom's, 48F, golden child. Our family dynamic changed drastically after my dad passed away when I was 14. He had a heart attack at work, and everything shifted after that. Mom had to raise us alone, and that's when the favoritism really started showing. Before Dad died, things were more balanced. He would always make sure we were treated equally, but without him there to keep things in check, Mom's clear preference for Fiona became obvious. I studied computer science in college, worked part-time to pay for expenses, and now work as a software developer making decent money. I'm proud of what I've achieved on my own. Fiona, on the other hand, dropped out of college after one semester, claiming traditional education wasn't for her. She supposedly works at a marketing firm, though I've never seen her actually go to an office. Mom defends this, saying Fiona works remotely and is building her brand, whatever that means. Growing up, the differences in how Mom treated us were subtle at first. If I got an A on a test, Mom would nod and say good job before turning to praise Fiona for getting a C because at least she tried her best. When I got my first job at 16 working at a local cafe, Mom said I was being hasty and should focus on studies. When Fiona spent her days shopping with friends instead of looking for work, Mom called it networking. The real issues started when I began dating Mason, 26M, 3 years ago. We met through mutual friends at a tech conference where his construction company was handling the venue setup. He owns a small but successful construction business that he built from the ground up. Mason is everything I could want in a partner: supportive, kind, hardworking, and ambitious. But Mom never gave him a chance. From the moment she met him, she turned her nose up because he works with his hands. She made snide comments about his clothes, his truck, even the way he talked. Meanwhile, Fiona brings home different guys every week, claiming they're business contacts from her marketing work, and Mom says nothing. The situation really escalated about 6 months ago. I stayed at Mason's place after a late dinner because we lost track of time watching movies. Mom completely lost it. She called me 27 times that night, sent angry texts about how I was ruining the family reputation, and even threatened to kick me out. When I got home the next morning, she gave me a 2-hour lecture about proper behavior and family values. The ironic part? While she was yelling at me, Fiona was literally walking in with some random guy from the night before, and Mom just smiled and asked if they wanted breakfast. This pattern continued for months. Every time I went out with Mason, even for lunch, Mom would interrogate me about where we went, who saw us, and what we did. She'd make comments about how certain behaviors make people talk and how she raised me better than that. But Fiona? She could disappear for days, and Mom would just say she's networking for her career. The double standard was suffocating. The breaking point came last month. I got promoted at work to senior developer, a huge achievement that I worked hard for. I wanted to celebrate with Mason, so we went to a nice restaurant downtown. The dinner ran late because we were enjoying ourselves, and I didn't constantly check my phone like usual. When I got home around 11 p.m., Mom was waiting in the living room with a packed suitcase, my suitcase. She had gone through my room while I was out and packed what she called my essentials. She said I was out of control and needed to leave if I couldn't follow her rules. I tried explaining that I was a grown woman with a successful career, but she wouldn't listen. She kept comparing me to Fiona, saying how Fiona was building her future while I was throwing mine away with Mason. She brought up Dad, saying he would be disappointed in my choices, which hit particularly hard because Dad had always taught us to be independent and follow our hearts. What Mom didn't know was that I had accidentally discovered Fiona's secret a few weeks earlier. I needed to print some work documents, and my printer was broken. Fiona said I could use her laptop since she had a printer connected. While I was printing, a notification popped up from OnlyFans. I thought it was just spam at first, but curiosity got the better of me and I clicked it. There was Fiona's account, very active and quite successful from what I could see. She wasn't working at any marketing firm, she was making adult content. I kept this information to myself for weeks, hoping Mom would eventually see how unfair she was being. I didn't want to expose Fiona's choices because, despite everything, she was still my sister. But that night, with my packed suitcase at my feet and Mom still praising Fiona's career choices while condemning my stable relationship and successful tech career, something in me snapped. I pulled out my phone, opened Fiona's OnlyFans page, which I had bookmarked just in case, and showed it to Mom. The silence that followed was deafening. Mom's face went through every shade of red before settling on a sickly pale. She started stuttering, trying to find excuses, saying it must be fake or someone stealing Fiona's identity. That's when Fiona walked in, saw what was on my phone, and completely lost it. She started screaming that I had ruined everything, that her business was making more money than I ever would, and that Mom was right to prefer her because at least she was successful. The argument that followed was explosive. Fiona revealed she made more in a month than I did in 3. Mom kept trying to justify everything, and I just stood there watching 10 years of lies unravel. Mom finally saw Fiona for who she really was, not the perfect daughter she imagined, but someone who had been lying to her face for years. The irony of her criticizing my relationship with Mason while Fiona was literally selling adult content online wasn't lost on anyone. I packed my bags that night, but this time it was my choice. I called Mason, and he came right over to help me move my things to his place. As we loaded the last box into his truck, Mom and Fiona were still arguing inside the house. I haven't looked back since. I know some might say I crossed a line by exposing Fiona's secret, but after years of unfair treatment and double standards, I couldn't take it anymore. Update 1: The aftermath of exposing Fiona's OnlyFans has been more intense than I expected. Word spread through our extended family like wildfire, partly because Fiona herself went on a social media rant about me destroying her career. Within days, every aunt, uncle, and cousin had something to say about the situation. Most of them sided with Mom and Fiona, which didn't surprise me given how Mom had always portrayed me as the problem child. My cousin Emma called me a jealous, bitter sister who couldn't handle Fiona's success. Uncle Bob sent me a long email about family loyalty and keeping secrets. Even my grandmother, who I thought would be horrified by Fiona's choices, told me I should have kept quiet for the family's sake. It seems the family motto is protect the golden child at all costs. But not everyone turned against me. Aunt Sarah, Mom's sister, reached out with some shocking information. Over coffee last weekend, she revealed that she had caught Fiona filming content in her house during last year's Thanksgiving gathering. She found Fiona in the guest bathroom setting up ring lights and camera equipment. When confronted, Fiona broke down and admitted everything. Aunt Sarah, being the proper person she is, immediately told Mom. This is where things get worse. Mom had known about Fiona's OnlyFans for months. She didn't just suspect or have doubts, she had concrete proof from Aunt Sarah. Mom's response? She decided to keep it quiet because Fiona was making good money and being entrepreneurial. Aunt Sarah said Mom even helped Fiona set up a business LLC to make everything look legitimate for tax purposes. All this while she was lecturing me about propriety and family values for simply dating Mason. The hypocrisy is staggering. Every lecture about proper behavior, every criticism about my relationship with Mason, every threat to kick me out, it was never about morals or family reputation. It was just about controlling me while letting Fiona do whatever she wanted. Mom was literally helping Fiona manage her adult content business while shaming me for staying over at my boyfriend's place. Fiona has been on a complete rampage since the exposure. The fallout wasn't just limited to her OnlyFans, it affected her other work too. Turns out she actually did do some marketing work on the side, mainly for local small businesses. She had sponsorship deals with several boutiques and restaurants, posing as a social media influencer. When her OnlyFans became public knowledge, these businesses cut ties with her. She lost about 5 sponsorship deals in 1 week. Instead of accepting responsibility, Fiona blamed me for everything. She sent her significant online following after me, claiming I was a jealous sister trying to ruin her life. My social media accounts were flooded with hateful messages from her supporters. Some even tried to contact my workplace. I had to private all my accounts and explain the situation to my HR department just in case someone tried to cause trouble for me at work. The most shocking revelations came from Fiona's ex-boyfriend Tom. He reached out to me through LinkedIn, saying he had information I should know. We met for coffee, and he showed me years of screenshots, conversations between Fiona and Mom where they discussed me. Fiona had been actively poisoning Mom against me and Mason for years. She told Mom I was sleeping around at work to get promotions. She claimed Mason was involved in illegal construction deals. She even suggested that I was doing drugs because I sometimes looked tired at family gatherings. I was tired because I actually worked for a living. Every time I achieved something, Fiona would find a way to twist it into something negative. When I got my first programming job, she told Mom I only got it because the company needed to fill a diversity quota. When I moved into my first apartment, she suggested I was using it for parties and hookups. She had been systematically destroying my reputation with Mom while playing the perfect daughter herself. Mom finally called me last week, but not to apologize. She demanded I fix things by telling everyone I had lied about Fiona's OnlyFans. She said Fiona's business was legitimate and that I was just jealous of her success. When I refused, she pulled out her ultimate weapon, the threat of disinheritance. She said she would write me out of her will if I didn't help repair Fiona's reputation. I actually laughed at this. I hadn't expected anything from her since Dad died anyway. She had made it clear over the years that Fiona was her only real daughter. Through all of this, Mason and his family have been incredible. They've shown me what real family support looks like. Mason's mom, Sandra, calls me every day just to check in. His sister helped me find a therapist who specializes in family trauma. His dad offered legal advice about harassment when Fiona's followers were targeting me. They've included me in their Sunday family dinners, something my own mother never did when I was dating Mason because she thought he wasn't good enough for these kinds of family traditions. The hardest part isn't the drama or the harassment, it's realizing that my mother's love was always conditional. She didn't care about morals or reputation, she only cared about control. She supported Fiona's choices because Fiona let her maintain the illusion of being in charge. She fought against my choices because I dared to be independent. I've blocked both Mom and Fiona on everything except email, which I keep open for legal purposes just in case. Some relatives say I'm being too harsh, that family is family. But I've realized that sometimes the healthiest thing you can do is walk away from toxic family members, even if they're your mother and sister. Update: 2 things have taken an unexpected turn that I never saw coming. It turns out Fiona's OnlyFans situation was much worse than anyone realized. Last month, I got a call from our next-door neighbor, Mrs. Peterson, who's lived there since we were kids. She wanted to warn me about something concerning Mom's house that she thought I should know about. According to Mrs. Peterson, Fiona hadn't just been filming content in her own room, she'd been using the entire house, including Mom's master bedroom, the pool area, and even Dad's old study. Several neighbors had complained to Mom about suspicious activities, strange cars parked outside at odd hours, lights and camera equipment being brought in, and unknown people coming and going. Mom had dismissed all these concerns, telling neighbors they were imagining things. The situation escalated when one of Fiona's collaborators accidentally left some explicit content visible through the living room window. A family with young kids walking by saw it, and they reported it to the local homeowners association. Mom got a warning letter but covered it up. She was so desperate to protect Fiona that she risked losing her standing in the community she'd spent years trying to impress. But the real bombshell dropped when Mom finally decided to clean Fiona's old room after another HOA complaint. She found her missing jewelry and designer bags, items she thought she'd misplaced over the past year. Fiona had been taking Mom's expensive things to use as props in her content, then selling them on various online platforms. We're not talking about a few small items either. Mom's inventory showed over $20,000 worth of missing jewelry, including her engagement ring from Dad. The theft discovery finally broke Mom's denial. She called the police, but not because of the stolen items. She filed a report because she found out Fiona had been filming content in Mom's bedroom without permission, using her personal space and belongings as backdrops. The officer who took the report advised her that she might need a lawyer since her house had been used for adult content production without proper permits or documentation. Fiona's response to all this? She moved out overnight, taking even more of Mom's things with her. She left a note saying she was moving in with one of her business contacts, a guy she met through her content creation who promised to help her expand her brand. She didn't leave an address or any way to contact her. Just emptied her bank account, which was apparently linked to Mom's, took what she wanted, and disappeared. Mom has been calling me daily since Fiona left. The first few calls were angry, blaming me for driving Fiona away. Then they turned desperate as she realized the extent of Fiona's deception. Last week, she left a voicemail crying about how she found receipts showing Fiona had been selling her things for months, including family heirlooms that were supposed to be passed down to us. The final straw came when Mom discovered Fiona had used her social security number and personal information to take out several credit cards. Fiona had run up thousands in debt under Mom's name, presumably to fund her content creation business. Mom's now dealing with both potential legal issues from the adult content being filmed in her house and identity theft charges she'll have to file against her own daughter. Mom showed up at my workplace last week, causing a scene in the lobby. She was crying about how she needed her real daughter back, how she'd made a terrible mistake trusting Fiona. My coworkers had to call security to escort her out. Mason wanted to file a restraining order, but I decided against it. She suffered enough consequences from her own choices. Through all this, I've stayed firm in my decision to keep my distance. Mason proposed last month, a beautiful, private moment at the spot where we first met. We're planning a small wedding, just his family and our close friends. No drama, no chaos, just love and support from people who've proven they actually care about us. Some might think I'm being cold, especially now that Mom is alone and dealing with the fallout of Fiona's actions. But I can't forget the years of unfair treatment, the constant criticism, and the way she enabled Fiona's worst behaviors while condemning my legitimate achievements. Sometimes the best thing you can do is protect your own peace, even if it means watching others face the consequences of their choices from a distance. Update 3: Life has taken some interesting turns since my last update. Mason and I got married last month in a beautiful garden ceremony. We kept it intimate, just his family, our closest friends, and a few supportive colleagues. Mason's parents helped us plan everything, and it was perfect in its simplicity. No drama, no excessive spending, just pure celebration of our love. Well, almost no drama. Mom and Fiona tried to crash the wedding. Despite not being invited and the venue being private property, they showed up right before the ceremony. Mom was crying about her right to see her daughter get married, while Fiona filmed everything on her phone, probably for social media attention. Security escorted them out before most guests even realized what was happening. Mason's sister later told me that Fiona had posted a rant on social media about being excluded from her only sister's wedding, trying to paint herself as the victim again. After the failed wedding crash, Fiona's online presence took another hit. Several of her subscribers reported her to OnlyFans for filming in unauthorized locations and using other people's property without consent. Her account got suspended, and she lost her main source of income. Last I heard through family gossip, she moved to Florida to restart her brand with that same business contact she left with. She's been telling everyone she's going to be a social media consultant, but her Instagram shows she's still trying to make it as an influencer. Mom made some drastic changes too. She sold the family house, couldn't deal with the neighbor's judgment after everything that happened. She used the money to pay off the credit card debt Fiona had racked up in her name and moved into a small apartment closer to where Fiona lives. Even after everything, she's still enabling her. She sends Fiona money regularly, claiming she's investing in her daughter's business ventures. The biggest news is that I'm pregnant, 14 weeks along. Mason and I are thrilled, and his family has been incredibly supportive. His mom comes with me to every doctor's appointment, and his sister is already planning the baby shower. It's bittersweet sometimes, watching them be so excited about becoming grandparents and aunts, knowing my own family won't be part of this journey. Word about the pregnancy got back to Mom somehow. She started sending baby gifts to my office and leaving voicemails about how she deserves to be part of her grandchild's life. She even joined some local grandparents groups, telling everyone about her upcoming grandchild. I had to ask HR to screen packages and visitors because she kept trying to ambush me at work. The extended family is pushing hard for reconciliation now that there's a baby involved. My cousin Emma, who previously called me bitter and jealous, now says I'm being cruel keeping my child from their grandmother. Uncle Bob sent another email about how family conflicts shouldn't affect innocent children. Even Aunt Sarah, who had supported me earlier, suggested I should think about the baby's future family connections. But I've made my decision. I won't expose my child to the same toxic dynamics I grew up with. I won't let them experience the favoritism, manipulation, and emotional abuse that shaped my childhood. Mason agrees. He's seen firsthand how my family's treatment affected me, and he's determined to protect our child from that. We're focused on our future now. We bought a house in a nice neighborhood, with good schools nearby. Mason's construction business is expanding, and I just got another promotion at work. We're building the kind of stable, loving home I wish I'd had growing up. Sometimes the family you choose, the one you build for yourself, is better than the one you're born into. My child will grow up surrounded by people who demonstrate real love, not conditional acceptance based on compliance with toxic expectations.